What is going on, Jerk Faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. We're back, but we're not live because we decided that we were going to do a pre-tape, so we can fit in something else. We'll probably talk about it
next week.
But I don't know how in depth we'll go into, but we've been trying to do this thing for a while, and I guess an opportunity presented itself, and so we're going to take it. So yes. With all that being said, let's get this conversation started. And with me, as always, is the homeboy Rob.
I know my power's back on. I'm back.
Yes. That was the reason why Robert didn't join us last week live, is because the power went out in his place, and he streamed. He does these Skype calls from his phone, and so he couldn't. His phone was running out of power, and so he couldn't do the stream, and then also have his phone for emergencies or what have you. So.
Right. Well, it was a mixture of things because the power was out in all of the entire complex,
mm-hmm.
And then I guess it wasn't just because it knocked out like the lights like around my neighborhood too. So what I think one of the cell towers within it also affected one of the cell towers in my area because I wasn't even able to get real messages even through hardly.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just it was rough. So not only could I barely talk to you, I could barely I would much less do the live stream. It was just a mess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you probably then should have gone and posted up at Starbucks or something, or at least to get be able to charge your phone, or
yeah, I guess,
or even at McDonald's, because now since they kind of reconfigured the inside to be kind of more of a cafe style, where people could just post up for hours and work on their crappy screenplays.
Yeah. Well, if you're working at McDonald's, it's a really crappy screenplay. But no, I around 9 or 10 o'clock, I was still waiting for the power to come back on,
mm-hmm.
And it didn't. So I was I just said, screw this. I ended up going over to my parents' place, just so I would, be able to charge my phone and, be able to see. Because I had no lights. I mean, I had my flashlight and stuff, but I couldn't really do
but there's no point. There's no point for you to be there, because you couldn't even watch TV.
Yeah, I couldn't even. Well, I couldn't even because my stove is an electric stove. I couldn't even cook anything for myself.
Also, that's right. Yeah, so you were really asked out.
I was fucked. Yeah. So, but it got all worked out. So I'm back.
Mm-hmm.
Andy didn't fire me or cast me into the exterior darkness.
Yes, but
not yet.
Where there is wailing and gnashing of teeth. Yeah, I mean, just a quick kind of update. What's been going on with you?
Really, not that much. Just been working a lot as always. Yeah, I had an 8-day work week last week, so
mm-hmm.
That was a little tiring. And then I had yesterday and today off, and yeah, just mainly been just kind of relaxing, talking with a girlfriend, playing some games. I just started. Well, I finished one and started a new one. I've one a game that I've been playing for probably about 150 hours. I finally finished it, and then I started up Battlefield 1, which is the World War One game from Battlefield, which is so far pretty interesting. I'm liking it.
What,
so nothing too exciting over here.
Okay. Yeah. Battlefield 1, that's in the series, right? That's the one where the precursor, or the progenitor of the Battlefield series, with It's in the same kind
Well,
of thing as
it's
Battlefield
a, well,
Five,
it
with
is
like
a
everyone's like kind of pissed off about.
yeah. Well, with Battlefield One, I don't know why they called it Battlefield One,
Hmm.
but it was called Battlefield One, which is it's not the first Battlefield game, but it was they called it Battlefield One because I think it was set. They have a World War One setting,
Uh huh.
um, so I think that's why they called it that. I have not played Battlefield Five yet. I think what pissed people off about it is because it's a pretty hyper realistic game. I mean, it is fictionalized to a degree, but it's pretty realistic.
Right. From what I hear,
Um,
yeah, it's like they tried really hard to stay as historically accurate as possible with taking some liberties for creative license.
right, and the problem with Battlefield 5 is it's also within that same genre, and it's not that women weren't involved in World War II. They
Hmm.
were, but it was more on the home front side where they were
Right.
they were
Or
the
like
with
yeah,
the
or they
men
weren't
in
on the front
war.
lines. They weren't
They
like
were
they
they
were
were the
much
ones
more in the
building the
supportive kind of roles. Working like in the office or being nurses. Um, yeah, but not
but they
like
were also
they
in the
weren't
factories
they
building
weren't
the
with
war
the men
machines.
storming Normandy.
No, and that's where the problem lies, is because that's what they were trying to go with.
Hmm.
Now, let's say this was more of a just like a random like first person shooter, just kind of like a whatever randomized story.
Hmm.
Yeah, use women. I don't care. That doesn't bother. I don't
Right.
care if there's a female protagonist in the game, but
Right. If
don't
they're
purport to like have this realistic game and then yet like you're doing something that's not accurate to that time period.
right, because if they just did a war type first person shooter, and it happened to also have a similar beach assault as Normandy, and then had the main protagonist of that story be a woman, I don't think not many people would have said anything. But
I
you
wouldn't
know,
have cared at all.
right. But then since this company, uh, you know, prided itself on being historically accurate, or being so obsessive about the littlest details to maintain like accuracy to like actual events. I think that's what kind of did them in.
Yeah, and I think that they fixed that somewhat because I
Hmm.
haven't, since the game has come out, I haven't really heard anything about it.
Right.
I haven't, I actually haven't, I don't own it yet, so I haven't played it. Um, but yeah, it's kind of stupid to be honest.
Hmm. Right.
And this isn't some like sexist comment of like, oh, I don't like girls gaming, or I don't like female protagonists, blah blah blah. It doesn't bother me at all. Um,
Right.
but
I mean, because like yeah, because there was
yeah,
games like Metroid where like the protagonist was a woman, and no one gave two shits.
in fact, it was pretty awesome that it was a woman, and it wasn't like necessarily that Samus was super powerful. But it was the
Hmm.
suit that gave her those powers. It's
Exactly.
a fictional story. Who cares?
Exactly. And I
Um,
mean,
yeah.
uh, yeah, yeah, I mean, I think that's yeah, because I mean, we're not saying like, oh no, no woman could ever be a badass, character. That's not what we're saying. It's just, if a company is known for like their, near obsessive compulsion to, being historically accurate, or or getting the finer details, right, and then all of a sudden they take this huge creative liberty and have a woman, charging with like, other, rangers on Normandy, then it's like, whoa, 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 flag on the play. What are you doing? I think that is completely fair.
Yeah, I
You
would
know?
agree. But yeah, no. So far, Battlefield One pretty damn good. It's you're kind of getting like all different aspects of the war from different sides, Western Front, Eastern Front, allies, and the I don't know if they weren't the Axis powers back then. It was they were
I
called something
thought
else, but like
I thought they were known as like the something coalition.
something like that. And I'm not as strong on my World War One
Right,
history as
nor am I.
though I am gonna rectify that pretty soon. I'm gonna start reading up more about World War One because it really is the war that, for the worse, changed the world.
Right.
Without
Actually, yeah.
World War.
I'm trying to listen to Dan Carlin's hardcore history on it. I found it. I was able to find like his series. Talking about World War One. But I keep getting distracted by doing podcast work or answering emails or what have you, and so
Yeah, same here.
things that so I haven't been able to like sit down and just like fully dedicate myself all of my attention to listening to this podcast because I know Dan Carlin, I know his work, it's freaking amazing. You literally can get like you can get a college level education in history from listening to his podcast because he goes so in depth and he researches it like crazy. And so I'm
Right.
really looking forward to it.
But yeah, no, it was without World War One, we probably wouldn't have had. We definitely wouldn't have had communism. We gave rise to fascism in several different forms.
Mm-hmm.
We probably wouldn't have had the Nazis. A lot of, and a whole generation of men was wiped out.
Right. Yeah. Because that before World War One, war wasn't mechanized. It wasn't industrialized. Um, and so like the rate of deaths, was never seen before in the history of warfare. And I mean, we're talking about like tens of thousands like within a day. And so
Yeah, it was
we just like
really
we
awful stuff.
yeah, just really horrific things like like since World War One we had to like make it law that you're not allowed to do or use certain things in warfare. Like I mean, from anything as small as like using triangled like blades to using nerve gas.
Yeah, it was. The Geneva Conventions came in after World War II, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I thought
Yeah. So, but I mean, or was it after World War One?
yeah, I thought the treaty no wait, the Geneva Convention, I thought Geneva Convention was First World War, and then the Versailles Treaty was after the second.
No. Yeah, I think you're reversing those. The treaty, because
Am
the
I?
Treaty of Versailles was the one that ended um, World War One and pretty much solely placed the blame on Germany,
Mm-hmm.
which is what gave rise to Hitler and the Nazis. Um, and then
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
after World War II is when the Geneva Conventions hit, and that's where they kind of set the rules of warfare.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't believe nerve gas was used in warfare in World War II. Not that I'm aware of.
Right. No, I think because that's what I'm saying. Because like it was so horrible, like because the mustard gas was so horrible and devastating that that all countries agreed like never to use it in warfare, or at least
Yeah.
the countries that took part in World War One. Um, yeah. Well, I mean, we'll once I delve into that podcast, I'm sure I will be corrected.
We're definitely gonna delve into World War One more during Nocturnal Transmissions because I'm very fascinated by it right now. So I think we'll do a little bit more with that later on.
Right. Yeah. As for me, really quick, I've been busy, working on the podcast, editing, all that stuff. Also, returning some emails from potential clients. Cross your fingers. Um, also putting out, also applying to, a few jobs I found, just randomly. Hopefully, that also pans out. But yeah, that's about it for me. Although I do have some, thoughts on, my current situation, but I think I'll save those for another time. Because we got a lot of things to talk about, and we are kind of on a bit of a time crunch. So let's get into it. Are we gonna do the continue with the convention of at least for when we're trying to play catch up? Are we gonna do news review, or I mean?
Let's dive into the news real quick first, and we'll do the movies at the end.
Okay, all right, yeah, all right. So okay, I'm gonna let you start off with this first story. So go to
I'm
it.
gonna actually start. I'm gonna start off with the. We talked a couple weeks ago about what's his face from the show Empire that allegedly got beat up in Chicago in the middle of the night. And here's the thing about that is because I was willing to give kind of the maybe not like I didn't necessarily believe in the degree or some of like the details seemed a little sketchy, but I was like, oh, but some of the details that were coming out weren't from him specifically. So I was saying, it's like, well, okay, maybe it happened, maybe, and other people are trying to sensationalize it, but I was wrong. The more I read about this story, or the more I hear, it just becomes more and more ludicrous, and it seems to me to be a hoax, all through and through.
Right.
Um,
I mean, I mean, because just some of the things that have been slowly coming out, like even last week, I was like, I started, the more cynical side of me, which is every day, every news update is proving itself to be accurate. Um, has been telling me that this is a hoax, or this is some sort of cover up for some other kind of more, or some embarrassing thing that happened to him. So like I kind of stopped paying attention to like the updates about this story. But yeah, just everything that he was like been saying is being proven false, and or like details are like starting are not like holding up to scrutiny.
yeah, it's so a couple of things that are a little odd about what happened on is so first off, this happened in the middle of the night in Chicago, so it's dog dirt cold. I mean, it's
Right. I mean,
so
during the
cold.
time when it's like, they were talking about polar vortex, the coldest it's ever been in Chicago and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, because that's how dedicated and committed, white supremacists are. That within like even in a snowstorm, even in below zero temperatures, they're willing to go out and lynch somebody.
Right. And first of all, it seems like with how that happened, it's like first off they would have to say they would have to have been waiting for him. Like it's not just like
Right. I mean, yeah, it can't be like, during the summer where they can kind of like post up and like wait for just like a random black guy. This is, again, this was like during a snowstorm, and, they would have, and like to like specifically single him out, they would have had to known like his schedule, or, or something.
yeah. And then it's like okay, but to the details, he was saying it's like oh, but they were wearing ski masks and MAGA hats. Well, okay. Were they wearing the hats over the ski masks? How did you know
Of
they
course
were
not.
white?
They were wearing the MAGA hats underneath the ski masks. Come on,
Yeah.
Robert. Don't you know?
Yeah, and it's like, and it's like, oh well, they were white guys. How do you know that they were white? Was it their skin color? Because
Yeah. Did they
I'm
flash? Yeah.
guaranteeing
Did
they're
they
not
did they
showing off a
lift
lot of
up their
skin.
ski masks real fast to make sure that you knew that they're white? They're white people.
And then you have like, then the other problem is okay, it's Chicago, which is a fairly heavy Democrat city,
Right.
and yelling out like something like "This is MAGA country." I really doubt that, for one.
Right.
But here's where, like, those are just kind of more like coincidental, kind of weird things that make you go, huh, kind of odd. But to me, what makes this thing sound completely bogus is details that he shared to the police, or he shared stuff with TMZ and all these other news media outlets that he didn't share with the police.
Mm-hmm.
And he supposedly had all this evidence, and and it was like in his phone, and so it's like, well, when the police asked him, like, would we be able to go through your phone so we can get this evidence that you supposedly have? No. So you would rather have these people go,
You'd
go
want these
free.
guys to get away with doing this to you scot free, and potentially doing it to another poor, unsuspecting black person.
Yeah.
That doesn't track.
So that's where I'm like, wait a second, that seems a little odd. That seems kind of like now we're getting into some weird territory. Then what else? There was something else too. It's like, and then all the camera footage that they have, and there's quite a bit of it that's tracking him of where he's going, and there's no one else. It's just him. And supposedly at the time that this happened, they lose sight of him for a couple of minutes, but then they pick him back up and nothing. So something
Right.
tells me that he and then here's another one too, where supposedly he had a cracked or bruised rib, but then a day or two later he's off dancing and singing and doing all his stuff. It's like, wait a second, if I don't know if any of you have had a cracked or bruised rib before. You're not dancing or singing. Trust me, it hurts to breathe, much less
Right.
you know much less do anything. Um,
Right. I mean,
and
just as a little anecdote, my dad recently, like, he hurt like he kind of like I think he bruised his rib because he was fixing his toilet, and he was, and he got it from, being in a position where something was pressing against his side for for a protracted period of time. And then every time I saw him, he was like complaining, like, oh man, it hurts so much, I can't like lift my arm, or it kind of, and sometimes it hurts to breathe, and I hear this, and all right, let's go to the urgent care, let's go to the emergency room, but being a Korean, being a Korean dad, he's like, oh no, I'll be fine, and just kind of toughs it out, and then he eventually uh he eventually heals. But during that time where he his like, I'm pretty sure it was a bruised rib, uh that happened, he was like, it was in pain. He wasn't like moving as quickly. Like, his range of motion was very limited. So I mean, even just that little like bruise that he had on like his side, not necessarily saying that he like full on bruised his rib, but even just getting just like a small kind of like a lesion on that area, it's hindering.
yeah, and one of the like just one of those things. It's like it kind of like raises an eyebrow,
Hmm.
but then when you put them all together, it's like this didn't happen. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say none of this actually happened.
It's kind of like that scene in Chappaquiddick where he where what's it Ted Kennedy has the neck brace
The neck
on,
brace.
but then like during the funeral he like full on like turns his neck around to
Yeah,
like to look behind.
that's exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is. So it's like this, like, yeah, this Jesse Smollett guy, he supposedly gets a cracked rib, and then a couple days later he's in West Hollywood, surprise surprise, dancing and like playing it up, and it's like, oh, I'm a victim, hate, resist hate, like dancing on stage, and it's like, bruh, like, nah, it didn't that didn't
What happened?
nothing happened to you.
guarantee, none of this happened. And there's and this isn't the first I've heard. I don't know 100%, but this is he's not the first Empire star to have create this fake hate hoax.
Someone else?
There was another. Yeah, there was someone. I don't remember. I don't know all the details, but I heard that there was someone else on. I don't know if it was one of the actors or someone on set that had created some sort of fake hoax, kind of not quite like this, but kind of in the similar in kind of a similar light, and they end up having to, it was fake, and they had to retract everything and all this stuff. But it wouldn't surprise me that he's making it up too, because I'm telling you, Andy, the left, they want so badly for there to be some sort of righteous cause that they can fight against. So resist hate. It's all bullshit, because there might be pockets of assholes here and there, but there isn't this systematic racist hatred going on. It does not exist. Maybe not. I can't speak for other countries, but it damn well doesn't exist here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and if and again, if it does exist, it's very small pockets. Basically, at the most 100 people. Because I mean, people always point to when asked about Christian extremists, they always point to the Westboro Baptist Church. It's like yeah, there are about 80 people, and they're all related to each other, and 2/3 of them have flipper hands.
Yeah, and no one within the Christian community will,
Yeah, and every single time someone brings that up, they go I disavow. They're not, they don't represent Christianity. I disavow.
There's a lot of parts of some of the Christian denominations. I'm like, no, no, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, Westboro, when they're protesting soldier funerals as no, sorry guys.
Yeah, you lost me a long time ago, but this just confirms that I am not with you.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this didn't happen. Definitely not. Maybe he something happened to him, but not like this.
Oh yeah,
this didn't happen.
I did hear that even the noose that was supposedly around his neck was not even a rope or a tent or a shoe a shoelace. It was I think it was a wire coat hanger.
That's not a noose.
Yeah, it was just it was kind of at least that's what it was no wait, maybe not wire. Not like a wire hanger, but I heard something to do with laundry. Maybe one of those lines.
Oh, clothesline?
Yeah.
But it's still, that's not a noose. That's what you.
Yeah, I mean, if it was just around his neck, yeah, because because a noose is a noose. It can't be just something with a simple
It's a specific knot tie for the
noose.
It's
it can't be just a simple box, like a square knot or something, that just and just placed around the neck. A noose conjures up a certain image in one's mind, and I don't and from what I hear, you'd be hard pressed to say that that's a noose.
Right. But yeah, no, with the clothesline, that's more of I might be messing up a garrote, where it has the two handles, and you kind of choke something out. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I think I think this might have been some weird kinky sex thing.
Yeah, well, and that's that was something that Gavin McInnes was talking about, where it's it's possibility that he hit on somebody that was potentially straight and didn't want him around, so they punched him out, and so he didn't want to. So he was embarrassed. So might as well create this fake hoax.
right? Or he found someone, he found someone of particular persuasion, and and it was just like an accident, and he actually kind of maybe he actually did kind of lose consciousness for a minute, and then maybe he fell to the ground, and that's where that cut comes, underneath his eye. So
Yeah, and it's or here's maybe another thing that could have happened too, where there's we don't know what his contract stipulates, but there may be activities that he's not allowed to do because he is an actor, and so it kind of damage to his face or
mhm.
his body, that could stop production for some reason,
Right.
and he was doing something against his contract, and to kind of mitigate uh, the backlash, like, oh, I was part of a hate crime, that's what
Mm.
happened. I wasn't out jumping my jet ski or something, on the water.
Right, yeah. There's
So,
been a bunch of those stories where celebs like do something that breaks contract with like a studio or something. Like they're not allowed to ride motorcycles, or they're not allowed to
right.
or they're not allowed to eat chicken because they might choke on the bone or something. Or, what have you.
So yeah, that's another possibility too of what may have happened. And yeah,
I don't
just
know
kind
either,
of
but yeah. I mean, I don't like. We'll never know what really happened, but for sure, like this, like supposed hate crime did not happen the way that
yeah,
this guy says it did.
it's too ridiculous,
It is.
way too ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that's all I had to say about that. Didn't happen.
All right. All right. Didn't happen. Taking a definitive stance. It didn't happen.
The
Yeah. No caveats here. Didn't happen.
yeah.
No, like no, no longer saying like, oh, maybe something did happen, but not this. No, like nothing.
Yeah, that's my hot take for the week.
Right. All right. Anyways, speaking of completely ludicrous things, let's talk about this Green New Deal.
I can't even keep a straight face thinking about this.
I know, right? It's just like it's funny. We're getting I forget what it's called, like the like Poe's law or something, where like it comes to a point where you can't tell when things are satire or like reality. And
I
we are definitely in that zone. We are definitely in that zone. I was like, because this freaking Green New Deal sounds like it. It looks and sounds like it should have come from the Onion.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, at this point, the Onion has become redundant. You know. Um,
Stuff that we were laughing about, 10, 15 years ago.
mhm.
That's like, oh, that's kind of a ridiculous statement. Well, those ridiculous statements that we were laughing about are starting to slowly become reality. It's fucking. We live in a weird time right now. It's so weird.
I mean, it is. It's just like the absurdity of everything is just almost too much to bear.
Yeah. So for what we're talking about is Alexandra Occasional Cortex, as I like to call her now. I still think that's her best nickname. Uh, she's been bitching about like this, Green New Deal that she's been trying to promote in Congress. And to be honest, first of all, I've read through it, and uh, first of all, it looks like she had a homework assignment that she forgot to do, and the night before she had like kind of she downed a few beers and just kind of like pulled an all-nighter to write it because it makes no sense for one. Um, and
No, yeah.
here's the crazy part about the Green New Deal. Very little of it has to do anything with the environment. it's about this like puppy dogs and rainbows dream
Well, I
that
mean,
she
yeah,
has
because
of
it also talks
destroying the
about
economy.
reparations for illegal aliens.
What does that have to do with the
I
environment?
know exactly. I mean, for that matter, what did the Paris climate accords have to do with the environment? Nothing except that more developed countries would have to fork out more like the money to somehow offset the pollution that other like developing countries are putting out.
Yeah,
That's
well,
like
sorry,
it's
a
like
little bit.
no, you fucking tell them, hey, bring down your carbon footprint. Don't fucking tax us because like freaking India, is just
Yeah, India
barely
and
getting
China
their industrial
are
revolution started.
right. Well, here's a little bit of a sidetrack, but the funny note is everyone like we pulled out of the Paris Accord, thank God, so we're not just shelling out money to these other countries
Right.
for no reason. But
Yeah, to
not
China
only
for
have we
one, who's like the worst polluter out of any country.
Yeah, but not only have we did we pull out of it and save money, but we've continued to abide by like what the Paris Accords were asking of us, and we've improved.
Yeah, I mean
And
it's kind of ridiculous because they're saying like, oh, this is the worst thing ever. It's like, well, why is it the worst thing? It's like, oh, because we're gonna be starting polluting like crazy. It's like, actually, no. We already have like EPA standards, and like, if you actually, yeah, because occasional cortex bring this up too about talking about how private businesses, are notorious for their externalities. Basically, unattended consequences of doing business, like polluting, waterways or dumping waste or what have you. But actually, because of the EPA and like their incredibly, harsh fees, you know, companies that company pollution has actually gone down.
yeah,
And so like
uh,
yeah, so
so
we're actually yeah, so as in terms of a country, the United States is doing really really good about reducing its carbon footprint, quote unquote, and and
yeah, absolutely ridiculous. But the crazy part with the Green New Deal is there's a few points that I wanted to point out that just it sounds absolutely ridiculous. One of the stipulations in the Green New Deal was plant like trees everywhere, like everywhere. We just need to plant trees. Okay, like is there like a strategic like area that we want to plant trees in, or
right, yeah.
it was just plant trees like everywhere, and it was like everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, like, are you saying that we don't have enough trees? Because I mean, last time I checked, the United States, uh, like per square mile, has more forest and vegetation than Europe.
Yeah, but nobody talks about that.
Yeah, but nobody talks about that.
And
Um,
hey, I'm fine with planting trees. I liked having more forestry, like more,
right? I
nice
like
things.
shade. Shade is great.
Yeah, I'm
You
all
know.
for it.
Yeah, I'm all for trees. Yeah, but
That's
you
about
just
the
can't. It
only
can't be. It just can't be for the sake of planting a tree. There has to be a purpose. There has. I don't
right.
call me old fashioned, but I think there should be a purpose to doing something.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I'm one for maybe not clear cutting forests, but kind of more of kind of like when we cut down trees, replacing them.
Right.
Though
Yeah. I mean,
with
you harvest a tree, you plant another one to replace it. Completely logical.
I think that's pretty logical. Um,
As yeah.
and then there was the other crazy thing that she was wanting to uh, get us to a within 10 years to have a net zero emissions carbon emissions thing, which how
Like
not,
yeah.
and let's say like none of her points like point out like how exactly this is going to happen. It's just like this is what we're going to do, and there's no like beginning point or solution to
Yeah,
like
there's no actual plan. She just says like I want to do this, but then gives no plan. It's like, how are we gonna do this?
Yeah.
You know,
So
it's just
her
like,
idea is that because her idea is to completely tear down every building, office, commercial, housing complex, tear those all down and start from scratch to make them these super green, um, whatever, so it doesn't provide any carbon emissions, which after a short amount of time is going to bankrupt. We're going to destroy everything and then have no money left over to do anything.
right. And yeah, and like yeah, either like tear things, tear the buildings down, or like retrofit them with solar panels. I don't.
The
This bitch is so annoying. I can't even stand her.
yeah, well, and then here's the kicker, is like we need to we're gonna it was and these are her words that all the likes, this is all her. We're gonna just stop the the what's it, the combustion engine, and we're going to give all electric cars, and we're gonna put chargers everywhere, and we're just gonna stop using planes, and we'll build railroads all over the place. So, we'll do electric train. Yeah. Okay. Uh, and even okay, and here and even what's her face, Maisie Hirono from Hawaii was saying it's that'd be a little bit problematic for us.
Yeah, for us island folk.
Like, they would cast them off into oblivion. They wouldn't get anything.
I don't like. Yeah, I mean, does she want us to go back to freaking boat travel, or go back to using
But that would be according to her, that would be too much emissions. Boats are too unless we're using sailboats back in from the 18th century. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so we're actually going backwards and not progressing. You want us to go back to fucking Spanish galleons and fucking
Yeah.
and fucking using donkeys to get around. And it's like, why? Do you not? And even if we started using beasts of burden again, those using those also created kind of an environmental calamity because of all the shit.
Oh yeah, that's speaking of
Yeah,
all
and I
the
mean,
shit.
there's back in the day when trolleys were pulled by horses. Sometimes they were those animals were so overworked that they would sometimes just die. They would just collapse from exhaustion, and then they were just left to be rotted because it took so long for the street cleaners to come and pick up the dead horse.
Yeah.
Which brought in disease, and so it's like, bitch, you want to go back to those times?
I mean, I don't think she's thought that through.
Of course not. She's a fucking airhead.
The what was the other thing that was? Oh yeah, it's and to eliminate all the farting cows.
Oh yeah. Eliminate cow farts. It's like, well, how do we eliminate cow farts?
No, she wants to eliminate cows altogether.
No, exactly. That would be the only solution. How do you eliminate cow farts? Keep them from farting. How do we keep them from farting? Kill them. That doesn't sound very just wait till the PETA people put those two things together.
Well, but she is one of those PETA people. They're all into
Clearly
this,
she's not. Because don't forget, Robert, they always eat their own. As soon as the PETA people put getting rid of cow farts, and how do we get rid of cow farts? We get rid of the cows. Well, how do we get rid of the cows? We kill them. They're gonna eventually. I mean, I'm not saying that they're the sharpest spoons in the shed, But they're eventually going to put that logic train together, and they're not going to be none too pleased with her.
Well, here's a little tidbit: is that PETA actually kills a lot more animals than it helps to protect.
That's true, but then
The
idiot followers are eventually going to put that train of thought together, and they're going to be pissed.
Yeah, it's
it's like the same way. It's the same It's the same logic when people say, "Oh, we have to eliminate, man-made climate change." It's like, well, how do we stop man-made climate change? It's like, stop the humans. Like, well, how do you stop the humans? Kill them. That's why I have resolved myself to anyone who brings up man-made climate change. My instant response to them is like, all right, kill yourself.
I'm the exact same way. I've been saying that myself too recently. It's like, okay, then just go ahead and die.
Yeah, it's like go ahead and kill yourself. Reduce the burden. Kill yourself. Because that's ultimately the thing that you have to do to stop man-made climate change. Because are you going to force someone to give up their car? And what if they don't? What if they decide not to give up their car? What are you going to do then? Like, are you just gonna tax? Are you gonna take their money away? All right, once you take all their money away, so what? The guy, on principle, the person does, someone like me, does not give up their car on principle, even if they don't have money to fill their car with gas. They don't want to. Someone like me doesn't want to give up their car. What are you gonna do? You're gonna have to kill me.
Might as well.
Jesus, these people they can't see 3 seconds beyond their noses.
Like I said, the whole, and I urge you all to go and read this bill proposal, for a good laugh, but to show you that this ignoramus knows absolutely nothing. Her only accomplishment was that she fooled people into voting for her in a very dumb district. For one,
right? And I hear they're trying to dissolve her district for the next coming election.
It should be, because she knows nothing, and then the other problem is,
I mean, because let's take a moment here. Let's take a moment here and remember that. What was it? When was the election? 4 months? 4 months ago? No, less than 3 months ago.
Yeah, 3 months ago.
3 months ago, this woman was a bartender
that lived at home.
And I'm not saying that she didn't get a good education or whatever, but the same point that people bring up about Trump, he doesn't have experience. Well, he's been president for 2 years. This woman 3 months ago was a bartender.
Yeah, and now she's the fresh face of Congress.
Yeah, I mean,
so fresh.
I'd be really surprised. I would be really surprised if she actually even had a political science degree.
Well, I mean, she's already lied about where she's from. She touts that she's from was it the Bronx or Brooklyn?
Yeah,
she's not from that area. She's not from that area.
Yeah, she's basically a tourist. She grew up she has family that lived in the Bronx, but her and her parents lived in upstate New York in a really really upper middle class suburban neighborhood.
Yeah, she grew up in, and she says that, well, then she tried to backspin and say well, my mom, she was working for these people in cleaning their houses. No, it's all bullshit.
Her mom was an architect or something, right? Or some sort of professional.
Yeah, her dad was an architect and was making good money. It's all horseshit. She plays
at being a woman of the people. It's like, bitch, your people, had little cucumber sandwiches, and and summers at a lake.
and
So
sprinkle gold flakes
you
on
weren't in
their
the streets, playing in like the fire hydrant.
yeah. And I don't care that like she's from an affluent area or whatever. It's like if you have good ideas, I don't care if you have like $1 billion or whatever. Who cares? If you got good
Yeah, I mean that's
ideas
what
and
I'm
you want to
saying. Like,
like make
yeah,
the
like
country
if
a
you
better place,
like
then go for it.
exactly, you can be from the Bronx. You can be from the Bronx, and if you have really good ideas and actual solutions, then I am fully willing to listen. But all she's doing is putting up talking points and saying how like, oh, the right wing is so obsessed with me. And it's like bitch, you say crazy ass things.
Yeah, and the problem is because she is a representation of her generation, of how dumb some of the voting base at that age is, and it's gotta that's why we talk about it, because she's completely just out of her mind.
Yeah, no, and I mean, and if she was eligible, for sure the Democrats would have pushed her to run for president.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
I
luckily she's only
guarantee
30
you.
years old.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. The green. If you want a good laugh, read the Green New Deal, but at the same time, we got to stop, touting these ignoramuses in our government, and I don't know. We need to start just shedding the dead weight.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because it's like she's so like it's funny because I get upset because I know how dangerous she is, and so like I feel like I have to go at her extra hard because you know not to say that she's dumb, but she is a shrewd politician.
It really
I
is. Yeah.
fully I know that she knows how to play the game, or she knows enough to be able to play the game well. And so that's why she's dangerous. Because I know she says like kind of crazy and stupid things, but that doesn't make her stupid. It just makes her dangerous
Right.
because she knows what she says is stupid and dangerous, and that she's able to get people to be like, yeah, that does sound good, and like just allowing that little space in people's brains is enough to like be able to control them.
Well, because you look at the media coverage, like after the Green New Deal was proposed in Congress, how the media portrayed it. They showed her kind of opening, what I call her opening tirade or tantrum, as I like, and uh, they only showed her part of the conversation. What they don't show is the response to her crazy statements, and how
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, and they're pretty much showing her it's like, yeah, nothing, none of this is gonna work, and this is pretty much calling her out, and she had no answer for anything. She
Right.
looked like, again, it may and the reason I didn't show it is because it made her look like an idiot that she is.
Exactly. I
And
mean, even like within a span of 24 hours, she contradicted herself on what the new Green Deal was,
yep,
and because at first, in the morning, I don't know, I don't fully know like the timeline, but in one interview with Chuck Todd on television, Chuck Todd asked her like, oh, is this a government takeover of the private sector? And she said, no, 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 of course not. you know. But then I don't see how how she thinks she's going to be able to achieve anything in her New Deal or Green New Deal without a government takeover of of certain private
no,
sector
but
industries. But then in an NPR interview, the interviewer asked her, like, would you say that this is going to be a full like government takeover of private sector businesses? And she's like, yeah, I'm totally willing to say that. And at a certain point, yeah, that's what has to happen. And I'm just like,
and
are you fucking kidding me?
yeah. So what? Which one is it? Is it not, or is it?
Yeah,
You
is
can't
this
have it both
plan a
ways.
government takeover of private industry, of private businesses, or is it not?
Yeah, it's she's speaking out both sides of her ass.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Oh, it's all so worrisome. I mean,
It's cringeworthy,
yeah,
Andy.
because obviously she's trying to conjure up a parallel with FDR and his his New Deal, but even that was disastrous because it had the government take over industries.
We're still paying for the problems with FDR's New Deal.
Exactly.
And honestly, like, a lot of people think like, oh, FDR, he helped save the economy and blah. It's like, no, he didn't. World War II saved the economy.
World War II saved his ass. It was funny because she even like mentions that in the fucking Green New Deal. It's like, well, how are we gonna pay for it? It's like, oh, the same way FDR did it through this and that, and also war. I was like, wait, what? War?
Yeah. The crazy thing is, and this is similar to with the problem with with Obama too, is that had they just done nothing, yeah, we might have had like the Depression may have been like a year, maybe 2 years. Yeah,
right.
and
And
it would have been over.
If Obama didn't come in and offer the the bailouts, the what is it the recession, it would have lasted as long as like maybe at the longest like 9 months.
Yeah, I think so. And it's
At the longest it would have lasted, like the recession would have lasted 9 months. If he didn't do anything, we could have digged ourselves out in like 4.
Probably, yeah. And
but it was like the same thing with the Great Depression. No, it's like because wasn't there some government intervention to like try to like?
Well, it was all the job programs. It was Social Security, and it was all these like these temporary government. It was where he was regulating industries. So like, oh well, we had to he was price controlling the price on things.
Right.
And it's like you can't do that. Like that's what ended up
prolonging the Great Depression. Right. And so similarly with like the Great Recession, it lasted like for 4 years, but we could have been out of it in like 4, maybe at the longest like 9 months.
Yeah, and it's just, not good.
Right.
And another little side note is like, what? Something also the Democrats will never talk about with FDR is the internment camps. Right. No one brings that shit up.
Yeah, everyone. Well, like they agree that it was a horrible thing to do, but they don't bring up that it was an executive order. No one in fucking Congress, voted on that shit. The president just like said, I want the Japs to be locked up. That's it.
And let's be honest, it wasn't just the Japanese that were thrown in there.
It was pretty much anyone with slanted eyes, basically.
Yeah. Which is insane. And to think, and they always, the Democrats are saying, it's like, oh, well, no, we're not trying to take your guns away. We're not trying to, the government's not trying to come after you. They've done it once to American citizens.
They've done it already. So like the idea is like, oh, that'll never happen again. It's like it already happened once. Once is enough.
And then they're asking me to fucking give up like my Second Amendment rights. They can go fuck themselves if they think I'm gonna give up my guns to the government. And the government right now, is Donald Trump and the Republicans,
right? Which is literally Hitler.
The guy that's literally Hitler. You want to give him all your weapons?
Yeah. So it's time to literally give Hitler all the guns.
Andy, it's just God. I'm riled up now. I'm riled up.
It's just so funny though. Because they don't because it's they don't think things through. they don't think things through. It's like guns are bad. It's like because they kill people. It's like well, what do you want to do? It's like get rid of all the guns. Like who do we give the guns to? The government. It's like well the government is right now Trump. It's like which you have christened him literally Hitler. So you're saying to give literally Hitler the guns.
Yeah. All honestly, all Donald Trump has to say is like, guns are bad. It's like
guns are
bad.
And all right, we're gonna get rid of the guns, cause hail me, cause I'm Hitler. All right, it's gonna be huge.
And then it's like you'll see all the Democrats go pro Second.
That'll be the way to get Democrats pro Second Amendment. Just have Trump say, all right, it's time to take away the guns. All right, we're done with the guns. No more guns. It's just like it's like it's like that joke that we used to make about like, how do we get Democrats to hate puppies? Is Trump say, I love puppies. I love the best.
They'll say, "Fuck puppies."
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna go kick a puppy square in the face right now. Oh,
it's funny because it's true.
Oh,
all right.
Lord.
Anyway, now that we got our never mind. Right,
I got the rage all out. Now I've laughed about kicking puppies in the face. So.
All right, now that we got, we have our spirits up a little bit, let's get on to our reviews, because we have two of them. Because I decided to save the movie reviews for when me and Robert can do them together. So let's start off with the one that we weren't able to do last week, which was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Okay.
All right. Just to give you a quick, for the folks, just a quick little recap of that movie. It's about this. It's about this man and woman who are in a relationship together, and they decide that they have this. They break up, and it's a pretty bad breakup. And so they decide that they are going. Or the woman decides that she's going to get him all memory of him erased from her mind. And then when he finds out that she had done this, he decides to do the same. But during the process of them erasing the memories of her, he realizes that that he doesn't want to do this, and he wants to actually try to make another go of it. And at the end of the movie, they do end up getting back together, but it's a really if you're not a fan of non-linear storytelling, then you're not gonna like this movie. But this movie kind of does things non-linearly, and the beginning of the movie is actually the end, and the end of the movie is actually the beginning, and so. All right, now since I gave you the basic synopsis of the movie, let's get into the actual review. Rob.
Yeah, because the goal of it's February, so obviously it's Valentine's Day, among other things, and so we were trying to go for kind of the darker like love stories, and this definitely falls into that category. But I'll be honest, I actually felt like that Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind was, while it was very fucked up, it was at the same time a somewhat hopeful film. In the case of, it's hopeful because, well, I'm drawing a blank on the character names. Let
me look those up.
Yeah. So first, it's a star-studded cast. It has Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet,
a pre-Marvel Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, pre-Marvel Mark Ruffalo.
Kirsten Dunst, Elijah Wood.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, she's a dunce, but just a different kind of dunce.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, the cast.
What was the name of Jim Carrey's character?
Oh, Joel Barish.
Joel. Yeah, Joel Barish, and then Clementine was Kate Winslet's character. So, anyways, those two are the main kind of the main characters.
Mm-hmm.
And while we see them as meeting on a train, and they kind of have this, man, you look really familiar, kind of, and they ended up
Right,
kind of.
Well, if I may, really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is it's a lot non-linear storytelling. So again, the end is the beginning, and so like he kind of wakes up, but you find out later in the movie that he's actually waking up after he's had the procedure done, and he it kind of starts off with with him kind of inner monologuing, talking about like, oh, Valentine sucks, and 'cause I guess it was close to Valentine's Day when he had this procedure done, and so he's having this inner monologue talking about like, oh, Valentine's a made up holiday, um, created by greeting card companies, and he's kind of going about his day, but then all of a sudden he gets like this urge to go up to Montauk. So I guess they're within like maybe like New York State or like maybe or the tri-state area, because I know Montauk is kind of like New York area.
Yep.
And so he gets this notion in his head to just go up to Montauk, and it's funny because like in the beginning you actually see Clementine, but they don't I guess they don't they don't know each other, they don't recognize each other. And so they go up to, I guess, they both go up to Montauk because during the course of Jim Carrey's erasure of Clementine, you know, she put, the memory of Clementine puts it in his head. It's like, oh, go to Montauk, go to Montauk. Which then, you then come to learn that that's actually the place where they actually first met.
Right.
For the first time. And so they're going, and then and then they meet on the train, and that's kind of where you think their romance begins, but it's actually where it actually begins again.
Right. So like I said, so Clementine, has like they have some sort of, you kind of see the destruction of their relationship, and Clementine is more of kind of the spunky, very spontaneous type of person, doesn't really have
she's the spontaneous free spirit of the two, and whereas Joel, he's more kind of reserved and kind of cautious, and it's kind of like the kind of the opposite, the opposites kind of filling in the gaps of the other. So where Clementine brings in a sense of spontaneity and randomness, Joel brings stability. And
right.
they're both they're both the things that the other is lacking.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, they're not, to be honest, they're not a great couple together. Like they probably shouldn't be dating, but because they did, I think they did really care a lot about each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this procedure where Clementine, she gets her memory erased, and I think it's because like she wanted to move on completely.
Mm-hmm.
But even in like her memory erased state, she's still kind of drawn to the memory of Joel, but she doesn't realize it.
Right.
And then the same thing is where Joel doesn't really want to live without Clementine because that was where he felt the most alive. And so like I just better erase her memory completely too. How dare how could she do that and
Right.
without us
But I
being able
think
to work it out.
right. I think, but even after when Clementine gets her memory erased, he's still willing to try and work it out, and he actually goes and confronts her. But by that time, she actually had the procedure done and didn't even recognize him. So I think
Right.
so his desire to remain together was stronger than I guess supposedly hers.
Right.
And I forgot where I was going
But
with this, but
yeah, but I was saying, but as Jim Carrey or as Joel is going through the procedure of having his memory erased of Clementine, he realizes, while he's going through it, it's like, wait a second, I don't want to lose these memories. They're important to me.
right. And I
They
think what
they it was an important part of his life.
right, and I think and I believe the memory that convinced him of that was that intimate moment that he and Clementine shared, and she shared this story from her past about this doll that she had, and cause she always felt like she was ugly, but then she kind of what is it, imparted like a bit of herself within this doll, what she named Clementine, and it's like, oh, Clementine, you can't be ugly, you can't be ugly, and through the manipulation of this doll, she somehow had her, was able to, or somehow kind of linked it to her own sense of self worth.
Yeah.
And so, and I think it was in that moment, where, she was vulnerable with him, that's when, I think Jim Carrey's character Joel fell in love with her. And so it was that memory that made him like, oh, I can't, this is where I fell in love with you. And so and he had that realization that he couldn't live without her, and thus began his attempts, during the procedure to erase the memories, for him to hold on to whatever he could of Clementine in memory form.
Right. Right. So yeah, so like I said, as Joel is going, reliving through these memories as they're trying to erase them, he's trying to also fight to preserve them, and he's realizing it's like, so he's trying to hide her and hide the memories of her in different aspects, different parts of his mind where they wouldn't be found out, and yeah, it's just, I think it's kind of to me, it felt hopeful because they both realized that they wanted to be together, even though they didn't really remember each other.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the end, they kind of do end up, maybe not happily ever after, but they do end up back together. So it's kind of, I think it's kind of, I felt hopeful at the end of the movie. I was expecting to be like, oh man, I really need a drink by the end of the movie, but no, it was actually a really hopeful movie. I thought it just showed. I like the love story.
I mean, I think I'm thinking a little bit differently. Because it almost feels like they're, what is it? It almost feels like they're in purgatory, because because of the non-linear kind of storytelling, it makes them feel like they're in a loop, and so it just makes them. To me, it gives me the sense that they're just destined to go through all the motions again, only to end up kind of in the same place. End up kind of breaking up with each other, and then kind of going through the process all over again. But I will say that what might give it a break is towards the end, when you actually see what happens, and because one of the employees of the mind wiping service, she actually had it done on herself done to herself because she was actually in love with the doctor who ran the facility. And so, and then when she found out that she too was, a recipient of this procedure, she decided that, she didn't want anyone else to, kind of have that sense where it's like, I don't know what's real in my life, or, kind of like breaking that kind of cycle and, give out all of the, uh, the tapes of like the interview that everyone has to go through talking about like what, why they want this procedure and like what they don't like about, whatever such person that they're trying to erase from their memories.
Yeah.
And I think, that kind of gives me hope for like kind of like a break, but ultimately it does feel kind of like time loop paradox a little bit.
See, and here, this is why, and that very scene that we get, that's why I disagree with you that they're kind of in this random loop, is because you see a breaking. So now they know why. It's kind of like you're in a relationship and you know why. You don't really remember the person, but you remember why you broke up with that person. You know all like the Joel and Clementine know what they hate about each other from the get go, right? And because of it, but yet they still want to be together, because Clementine, goes to Joel, and Joel's listening to her, the tape that he had of her and why he broke up with her, and she's like, no, just let it play, I deserve it, I deserved it, after what you listening to this tape, you deserve to I deserve that same treatment. And when Clementine, couldn't take it anymore, the old Joel would have just said, just let her go, and just kind of would have retreated into himself. But instead, he chose to say, like, no, he ran after her, and it's like, no, this is the old Joel. This is not who I am anymore. And that is why I think I felt a lot more hope, because they both changed as characters at the end. Going through that process and then kind of hearing themselves talk badly about that person, and kind of having everything that happened, it kind of it changed them as characters. It made them better. There wasn't
Mm-hmm.
just some like, well, I guess we'll give it another toss of the dice and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more of like it was a much more calculated relationship where they kind of knew the flaws and everything going into this relationship than when they had first met.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that, but I don't know. Well, yeah, I mean, because we only started off with Eternal Sunshine because it's been a while since we both saw it, and we thought that because on the movies that we had decided to watch, one of them was also 500 Days of Summer, and we thought that 500
Oh,
Days of Summer would be had more of a hopeful ending. But after watching Eternal Sunshine, I guess I begrudgingly kind of think that it is a little bit more hopeful, although I do see more of a fatalistic kind of message in it. But I do have a
yeah,
theory about why 500 Days of Summer is more hopeful, but I'll save that theory for when we actually get to the review.
yeah, okay. And it's been a while since I've watched 500 Days of Summer too, so I want to see if maybe I feel differently about that movie.
Right.
But I would say as of right now, I because Eternal Sunshine I watched. Well, that was about what, 15 years ago now. 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah, because this movie came out in '04.
Yeah, so I was definitely in a much different state of mind when I watched that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I kind of, at the time, I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't really care for the movie. But now watching it,
Right.
now
Nor
that I'm
did nor did
older,
I. Nor
and
did I.
yeah, now that I'm watching it as I'm older, and watching it in a critical way,
Mm-hmm.
I actually liked it. I thought it was a pretty good movie. And I didn't have the the kind of feeling after watching it.
Okay. All right. So let's wrap this review up with our scores. Robert, what do you give this movie?
I'm gonna give it 3.5.
3.5. Okay.
Yeah, solid movie.
Okay. Yeah. I'd give it. I'd give it a 3. I give it a 3 because again, I mean, because I do think it's a solid movie. Um, but I do think that again, there's some element of or there's like this, or I see a little bit more of a fatalistic message in it. But I mean, it's still like it's still a good movie. I mean, technically, it's still a good movie. Uh, and the story was told aptly. So yeah, that's why I give it a 3.
Yeah, I think it's still relevant for today.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree. I would agree with that as well. And also kind of goes, well, not really. No, forget what I was about to say. Just say. But,
All right.
all right. Anyways, let's we're at the straightaway, and so we're gonna do our this week's movie review, which is Wild Things. And yeah, I must admit, watching it again, it gave me the feels, just as when I first saw it as a young man.
Yeah.
And but yes, the story. If you guys don't know, the story for Wild Things goes something like this: a small kind of insular community in South Florida. You know, a young woman accuses a guidance counselor at her school of raping her, and they go through the whole process. He's ostracized from the community. They go to trial, and he is ultimately found to be not guilty because there's not just one lone accuser, but another girl steps forward and says that she was raped by him as well. But that second girl, she breaks down and admits that it was that she was lying and it was all a plan concocted by the first girl. But then that's when it kind of really takes off. Um, exactly, and there's this plan that's set forth seemingly by those three characters: the guidance counselor, played by Matt Dillon, the first young girl to accuse her, played by Denise Richards, and the second student to accuse him, played by Nev Campbell. And you think that it's just like this kind of love triangle scam because Denise Richards' character comes from like a really wealthy family, and you think that it's just a plan to bilk the family out of the money, and for Matt Dillon and Denise Richards' character to run off together. But then it just gets so much. It just gets like the layers in this movie run so deep that it's just ridiculous. Robert, yeah, jump in here with your thoughts.
Yeah. So pretty much like as Andy was saying, it's like it starts off as like this. Oh man, it looks like Me Too gone wrong kind of scenario.
Right. I mean, the first half of this movie is kind of like is kind of relevant for today's day and age, but the twist kind of nullifies it. But
but then when he's exonerated and he wins a lawsuit against the the girl, the rich girl's family, but it's like, wait a second, the movie's nowhere near done. It's like halfway.
Right, it's like at the halfway point where he gets exonerated and he gets that huge settlement check.
And then where you have another character who's one of the police officers, yeah, played by Kevin Bacon, and he's saying it's like, no, this is all it was all fabricated. It's bullshit. There's something not right about this guy and about the two girls. Something just it doesn't add up. And so he starts digging in deeper and trying to kind of scratch at the surface. And you come to find out that uh, Matt Dillon, Denise Richard, and Nev Campbell, their characters were all in cahoots to steal. Because what ended up happening is the girl, Denise Richards, her character had
Kelly.
a trust that. Yeah, Kelly Van Ryn, I believe, was her character name.
Yeah.
And she had a trust set up in her name that she couldn't, get money from until later in time. So her mother, who had also slept with Matt Dillon's character, which was what was his name? It was
Sam Lombardo.
Yeah, Sam Lombardo. He was kind of a womanizer in a sense, and to pay him the settlement, she had to break the trust and give him the money, and that was the whole plan. And they were then Lombardo, Van Ryn, and then what was Nev Campbell's character's name?
Susie,
yeah. They all were going to split the money three ways, but they had to do it kind of in a secretive way so that people didn't kind of catch wind of what was going on. And they were all kind of they kind of had a threesome, a throuple. They were a throuple, if you will, and
yes, a gentleman's threesome, not a devil's threesome.
Yeah, you're right. That this is true, and so what was and then Kevin Bacon? What was his name in the movie again?
Ray something. Ray Duque, something like that.
Yeah. So, anyways, his character like starts kind of scratching at the surface, and you think like, oh, he's the one that's going to catch them, and he ends up kind of the things that he was because he started attacking them individually, and he started kind of breaking their confidence in like the
trying to like the slightest little pebble in their shoes to make them question to question like the motives of of the others and yeah, this it's crazy how like how many layers this movie had, just because when you find out that Matt Dillon, Sam Lombardo was actually in on it, and it was all orchestrated from the beginning, and then like that they're all in on it, and that then like you think that Sam is like the real mastermind, and then slowly it begins to unspool, and you actually see the layers, and eventually it gets to like the end, and you're like, wow.
I was blown away at how it all like played out. I was like, I did not expect that whatsoever. And yeah, it's like the more you went through like the second half of the movie, it's like this person killed this person who backstabbed, and then they backstabbed this person, and the person that they thought they backstabbed was actually backstabbing them, and it just kept going and going, and it's like, what? Wow! I was, because all I remember is obviously the wonderful scene in the pools.
As a young man, I wasn't watching this movie that critically, but
no.
So I forgot a lot of what happened. But essentially, Kevin Bacon's Ray, police, Sergeant Ray, he was in on it, and then slowly, and then I think part of it, I think part of the plan was for Sam Lombardo and Kelly Van Ryan to be together at the end, but it didn't end up happening. Because Kevin Bacon's Sergeant Ray, ends up killing her. But just like this, it's funny because during his after he kills her, but we don't know that he's killed her. We just think that they had like a tussle and and it was an accident that he killed her, but it was all intentional. But he was he looks like devastated. It's like, oh, but then you see him and he's in the he's in the shower in the hotel room of Matt Dillon's characters, and it's like, holy crap, they were in on it together.
They were in cahoots.
I was like, how many people are actually in on this? And then you slowly, but then slowly you kind of get these kind of nervous feelings about the characters and their intentions, and at the end, Sam and Ray are on the boat, and and Sam tries to off Ray, but that doesn't end up happening, but his first attempt doesn't pan out so well, but then at the end, he shot, Ray is shot by, what's her face? Susie, with a spear gun, and, because, prior to all this going down, we were led to believe that Sam kills Susie, and then dumps her body in the swamp, so that he and Kelly can run off together. But but then it turns out it's actually Sam and Susie that are ending up running away together. But then another twist. Susie ends up killing Sam, and at the end, she is revealed to be the actual mastermind behind everything.
Yeah, and it had to do something where she was kind of like the stepsister to Kelly's character.
Or she was the no. She was the illegitimate child of her mother's father, so she was actually half sisters with her mother, which made Susie Kelly's aunt.
Was that? God, that's really fucked up.
Yeah,
it's more
especially
the
scene, especially the scene that they had. It gets real incesty.
Oh God, that's really fucked up.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of, I was more focused on kind of the twists and turns that the thing was taking.
Right.
But now that I'm looking back, it's that whole scene is really fucked up.
No, yeah, it is. When I realized, because when Susie's supposed grandmother, it's not actually the grandmother. It was just a close friend of her biological mother.
Yeah.
And she kind of took, who kind of just raised her. And suppose there's some sort of backstory with the Van Ryan family and how they're obviously come from money, and they used to come down to the poor the Everglades part of town, and they would go hunting and whoring, as Susie's grandmother, or quote unquote grandmother, would say. And right. Susie was actually the result of Kelly's mother's father's dalliances, so which does make her half sisters with Kelly's mother.
Yeesh.
Yeah, and so and
yikes.
And then it's revealed that Susie is a genius level IQ. She has her IQ is 200 or something.
Right.
For some reason, and so she even though you think that she's this kind of poor victim bystander type character, she's actually the secret mastermind. And it wasn't until the end of the movie where they kind of like do like, oh, this is how we did the trick, and they reveal all the steps that went into the events of the movie. From the first time that Kelly approaches Sam Lombardo and propositions him, and they start their affair, even though he's having an affair with her mother. And then Susie's character, secretly photographs Sam, multiple affairs with both Kelly and her mother.
Yep.
And then I guess concocts his plan to bilk the Van Ryans out of their money, and then that's when they bring in Kevin Bacon's Sergeant Ray into the plot, because he's kind of like a dirty cop. He loves his horse too, and he's easily he'd be easily manipulated into participating, and it's really crazy. And
it had a lot more depth and layers than I expected, and I really, really liked the movie because of that.
Me too.
It's not just some sex romp.
Right. I mean, because when I was a young man, this movie came out like 20 years ago. So yes, when I was a young man, I was only watching it for a certain reason.
Me too.
I was only watching it for a certain reason, and I wasn't, I wasn't necessarily watching it for, with a critical eye or appreciation for storytelling.
Yeah.
But watching it now as an adult, I really like this movie. And something that I was going to bring, we were talking about this before we started recording, but and I wanted to save it for when we did record. But for me, there was a lot of like Hitchcock elements to this movie, and I don't know if you felt the same way.
Yeah, I did. I was gonna bring that up.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I meant. That's what I was alluding to before we started recording about this movie. Is like it felt very much like a Hitchcock movie, and so and props to hold on, let me see if I can find the director. Yeah, John McNaughton. John McNaughton. Yeah. Kudos to him for, getting like all the beats right, and even his choice in the soundtrack too. It was very Hitchcock. There's times I was watching it and it was very Hitchcock.
Yeah, it did feel like a very modern Hitchcock film. Mm-hmm. Lots of twists and turns. You're not really sure. Not everyone is playing the part that you expect them to be playing.
Right.
Because who the hell would have figured Susie would have been the conspirator of all this thing? She was the one that was
the secret mastermind behind all of it. And like the only reason why she. Yeah, and it was funny because because during like the subterfuge in the first half of the movie, like the reason why she supposedly even agreed to testify against Sam Lombardo was because she was arrested for some kind of possession. And she had called Sam Lombardo for help, but he didn't answer.
Right.
And so like that was like the reason that she gave. But then you find out at the end of the movie when they do like the kind of like, okay, this is how we did the trick. The reason why he didn't answer, before that, like his reason for not being able to help her was because he was out of town. But it turns out that he didn't help her because he was actually off, having his affairs with Mrs. Van Ryan and Kelly Van Ryan.
Right.
And so
it was really fucked up. But in kind of a good way, where it just man, I was blown away. I like this movie a hell of a lot more than I realized I was gonna like it.
Right. I mean, when you watch this movie when you're, when you're 13, you're not gonna really appreciate it for all, for all of the intent, all of the work and intentionality that went into making this movie.
Right, but here's the thing. 20 years later, God, that scene's still great.
Oh yeah, superb. Still, again, it gave me all the feels that that I had when watching this as
I felt
when I was like 14, when I was
yeah,
like 13, 14, yeah, it still gave me all of the
yep.
feels.
I had the same feelings all over again. But
Right.
yeah, no, the movie is really good. I agree with you with the Hitchcock elements to it. Just a lot of subterfuge and intrigue, and it always left you guessing. Like I did not expect that ending, and so yeah, it was the other character we didn't bring up was the lawyer, Bill Murray's character,
Oh
who
yeah,
who
surprise
also played a part.
cameo by Bill Murray, the man, the myth, the legend. He plays kind of like this ambulance chaser kind of lawyer who's like the only one who's willing to take on the case of Sam Lombardo because he's been you know ostracized from the community, and that's reflected in like even um, in the line that Bill Murray says, like, "Oh, so what are you doing in this part of the town?"
Right.
Meaning that he had no since the rape allegation came out against him, like he has no allies in that town.
Yeah. And
And
then, but
so
he also played like a huge part in Susie's plot. Like, he was the one that he was actually working alongside of her to get her that money. Minus his like 10% cut, of course.
right, of course, you're not gonna do all that for free, and
Yeah.
and so
So, but yeah, I really like the movie. Good acting, good story, good soundtrack. It had all the great elements.
indeed. Although it was really funny because it did take me kind of on a time warp because they had that scene where the guidance counselor Sam Lombardo was giving the kids a ride home, and that what was that? Oh, who's that band? Was it Sugar Ray?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
it
that
was like
song was
Sugar
played on
Ray
the
or like
radio. Like they used that song as a soundtrack. I was like, oh my god, this is so 90s.
yeah, it's like oh yeah, this is what 1998. Of course,
Yeah, but
this is the music at
it's
the
so
time.
funny because it kind of makes me sad because um I feel a movie like this will never be made nowadays, especially like as exploitative as it is, in terms of of all like the nude scenes and stuff. But it's there's it was I don't know why. Maybe it's maybe it's the nostalgia filter on it, but it's just it was so well done. It hit all of the right notes, and and
Absolutely.
I don't mean that in kind of a sleazy way, but it's just you know it hit all the right spots where a man should feel aroused about, you know, and there was
Yeah,
an artist. It was kind of an artistry. Again,
yeah. I
not to
don't know.
sound like some lewd, horn dog or whatever, but it was it was visually it was it hit all the right all the notes.
Right, but it also makes you think. It's like it is kind of a you know according to feminism today, it is kind of women empowering because they were the seductresses that kind of put things in motion. It wasn't we think of Sam Lombardo as kind of the main conspirator, like he was the guy behind it, but it wasn't him. we were fooled into thinking it was him. It was Susie, or for a time we thought it was Kelly Van Ryn, but then she wasn't. She ends up getting killed. It was Susie all along that was really the one that was pulling the puppet strings on everybody.
That's that's right. Because once you know that it was Susie who was the mastermind behind this, then it kind of takes a complete you realize that Sam was never in charge.
Yeah.
He was just another pawn on the board.
Right.
And so actually, Wild Things is the most feminist movie.
I agree.
So I can appreciate it guilt free.
But anyways, what would be your rating, Andy?
Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but yeah, I'd give it a 4.
That was going to be my rating too. I give it a 4 because I kind of like that. I didn't like that they revealed everything kind of at the end. I liked having that.
Right, exactly. At the end, they kind of show the chain of events that led up to, everything. And just the one scene that I'm okay with is at the end when you realize that Susie is the mastermind, and the lawyer comes and brings her some cash, and then also the check, and then they have that kind of quick back and forth, and that's the only the scene, the end, the end credits scene that I think doesn't take away from the movie, because all the other ones where they show Kelly Van Ryn propositioning Sam Lombardo to start their affair, to the recruitment of Kevin Bacon's Sergeant Ray, to the supposed beating of Susie, when it was actually she was the one that was ripping out her teeth, to leave as evidence for the police to find. All that stuff is unnecessary, and I think kind of takes away from the kind of the cleverness of the movie. But okay, all right, there you go. Wild Things. Me and Robert give it a 4. Go watch it. Stars. All right, remember, men, it's the most feminist movie, so you can watch it again and again and again and again and again.
I'm definitely probably gonna watch that movie again at some point soon.
At some point, yeah, it's special occasions.
Yeah,
special occasions. All right, well, that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for joining us. We're going to end it here. Don't forget to check out our other shows. Circular Jerks Podcast, Nocturnal Transmissions, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter @PodcastCOJ and Instagram @Circular Jerks Podcast. And for myself and for Rob, we'll say goodnight, and we'll see you next time.